I don't think anybody's jumping off the Josh Heupel bandwagon just yet. By the way, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button. We greatly appreciate that. Click it and click it often. And thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're with you each and every weekday at 10 a.m. And we'll have Jamal Lewis later on this week as part of our Celebrate 98 series. So let's talk Josh Heupel for a second. Losses at Florida, at Alabama. Let's get your thoughts on the message board, and I want to get Caleb's thoughts as well. But John, today's tough question is, are the losses at Florida and at Alabama Josh Heupel's fault? And it's brought to you by Andy Mason Real Estate, andymasonrealestate.com. Go there now for your real estate business. Best service, best prices in the biz. John, ultimately it's all on Josh Heupel, but are those losses in particular his fault?
Yeah, I thought the Florida game was probably the worst he's coached here, though I don't really remember all the first season, but that kind of struck me during that game. And the Alabama in the second half, I give a lot of credit to Alabama for that. I think we tend to look at the team we cover as it's all about that team and what it does or doesn't do. But I thought that had so much to do with Alabama and Nick Saban. He's considered the greatest coach in college football history for a reason. But I just thought against Alabama, I thought those fourth down gambles were ill-advised because of Tennessee is just not it's not great in short yardage. And the play calls weren't effective. Of course, you could always say that in hindsight, but particularly on the latter one, when Alabama had the momentum, I don't like it when coaches try to force things. They feel the momentum has shifted, and it's almost an impatience and got to get it back. Let's go for it here. Well, even if you make that first down, I'm not sure it would have led to anything. So I just thought that was a really bad time. I would have tried to pin Alabama back deep in its territory. So, yeah, I thought a lot of that was on Josh Heupel, and he took responsibility for the way that game went.
Caleb, are the losses at Florida and at Alabama Josh Heupel's fault?
Yes, but in different ways. So I think the loss at Florida, I actually don't blame Josh Heupel's play calling at all at Florida. I had no issue with it. I think the issue with with Tennessee at Florida was Cooper Mays not being healthy. They had so many issues with pre-snap penalties and pre-snap reads and missing blocks that they couldn't get into a rhythm. The defense plays off the lead, so they were going to struggle in the first half. The Cooper Mays injury, as Dave, you and I talked about yesterday, that part might be Josh Heupel's fault because it just doesn't seem he should have been. There's no way the staff shouldn't have known that he had this hernia back in spring and gotten him ready to go by fall. So I think that part is on Heupel. So I blame.
That's a good point.
I'm sorry.
I blame a really good point.
Yeah, I blame not managing the Cooper Mays injury well. I blame not managing the Cooper Mays injury well on Josh Heupel. So, but for Alabama, I think largely Alabama was just better. Now, I agree with John. Actually, I disagree with John. I don't mind going for it on those 2 fourth downs because I am a big win probability guy. And I think punting is the most overdone thing in football because I don't care what anybody says, punting is a turnover. It counts as a turnover. You're giving the ball to the other team. And I just think that I'm almost like near midfield, 4th and 1. I would 99% of the time go for it, but I will criticize the play calling for that. But I'll save that for my Football IQ segment because I think the plays that were called were absolutely horrendous, and I didn't need hindsight to criticize that play calling because I think there's just obvious things to do on 4th and 1.
John, I think that the Florida game was an injury issue with Cooper Mays. Now, what Caleb brought up was a good point. Why wasn't this diagnosed in the spring? I know that was a concern on behalf of some of the people involved, but I would put that more on the injury situation with Cooper and the fact that Tennessee's program is not built up to the point that they have sufficient backups at several positions. God bless Ollie Lane, but he's not going to go on to the NFL and be an all-pro. And Alabama, I would put that completely on Josh Heupel. I would. I didn't like the 4th down calls. I understand Caleb's point. I specifically didn't like get out of the shotgun when you're 6'5", 240 pounds, and you're a quarterback. Can you not take the snap under center? So, John, I'm with you. With the Alabama game for sure.
Yeah, I just think Caleb apparently is a big analytics guy. I think coaches rely on that too much. I think you've got to have more of a feel for the game. I don't see anything wrong when you call it a turnover, but you can turn it over by, if you call a punt a turnover, you're giving it to the team. You might be giving it to the team 45 yards downfield. In a game like that, where these aren't spectacular offenses, I think field position can matter. It just depends on the nature of the game. I just thought that was I thought that was an awful call, about as bad as a decision as he's made and Josh Heupel's made in a game. And then it was compounded by the play calls. It's a pet peeve of mine to not get under center on 4th and short. I mean, Tom Brady for seems like 50 years, I guess it was more like 20, but he made a living making short yardage plays, just getting under center, taking a snap, and pushing forward. And he's not nearly as big as Joe Milton is. So, yeah, that was a bad call, I thought.
Yep,
And also, what about the?
Go ahead.
And also, like what the Eagles are doing. Why don't, if you're not going to do a standard sneak, why not the tush push? That works every time if you have a good blocker.
Yeah. Push them from behind. Nothing like a good tush push, John.
Yeah, that's become fashionable. I remember when that was considered illegal. You couldn't do that. And the first time of note was, I guess, when Southern Cal in one of its championship seasons, I think it was at Notre Dame, Matt Leinart, the quarterback, was literally pushed into the end zone. And back then it was kind of like, oh, was that is illegal or not? And I don't remember reading where, okay, that's legal. It just sort of, in my mind, it just sort of became legal. But it's completely different. You didn't used to be able to do that.
As far as the Alabama game, I think that last year you had a special quarterback in Hendon Hooker. You had a special receiver in Jalen Hyatt. John, Tennessee doesn't have that this year. I almost feel like, even though it was year 3 under Josh Heupel, that the talent differential was as significant or more significant than it was last year by losing those two guys. Tennessee's better in the front 7. We could break down the whole roster, but Tennessee talent-wise up front didn't look as good to me, especially when they had the ball.
Well, I mean, we talk around it a lot of times, and we also talk about it, but there's a big change at quarterback, and you can't ignore that. This is not the best offense for Joe Milton. It's not the best offense for his skill set. And so Josh Heupel is determined to make this work. They've stuck with Joe Milton all the way. He's determined to make it work, but it really hamstrings his play calling and what he wants to do ideally. This is not a Josh Heupel offense. It's not the offense we saw the first 2 seasons, and you kind of have to attribute that to quarterback. He's calling plays to work around what Joe Milton's game. So that alone, I mean, that stands out to me. Tennessee's averaging 15 points fewer a game. And yeah, you can point, it hurt to lose Darnell Wright, a first-round NFL draft pick, and it hurt to lose Jalen Hyatt. But still, to me, and this isn't just a knock on Joe Milton. It's a fact that his skills, he would be, to me, better off in a drop-back passing game. He can't throw on the move, and that's what this offense needs, is somebody that throws on the move. And I give Joe Milton a lot of credit for the way he ran the ball against Alabama. That was a significant step up for the offense. But still, Josh Heupel has to call plays around what Joe Milton can and can't do.
I agree to that. I agree with that completely. Now, on the message board, we had a question about Cooper Mays. Is he does he have a COVID year? Yes, he does have a year remaining. so he could come back. But let's be honest, whether it's Cooper or Addison Nichols or whoever it is, if you don't have a center in place by year 4, there's a problem with your program, because you've had plenty of time to build that up. And I think Cooper Mays' plans right now are to go to the NFL. As far as the draft grade, I was told that he got somewhere from like a 4 to 7 type of draft grade last year. He's an overachiever. I don't think that Cooper Mays is going to be a first-round pick, but he will have to determine whether or not he wants to get to the NFL after this year. He does have a year remaining, but there is NIL money, some via Off the Hook Sports. There's some NIL money that may want him to stay. I don't think I can compete, though, with the Giants, John.
Well, so maybe whether Cooper Mays goes or stays comes down to how much you're willing to spend, Dave.
It's all on me, isn't it?
Yeah, it all is.
Tennessee's interior offensive line is on Dave Hooker.
Yes. That's
great.
fair, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go out and have to sell some advertising.